All right, if you could stay there, my friend, I want to expand this out because it was just about a week ago that Beijing celebrated the success of Alibaba. More like Alibaba humbug. To our Fox Biz All-Star, Cheryl Casoni, Jonas Max Barrett, Tracy Burns. Tracy, it does seem mutually incompatible here, but it is and has been the success of China to have the best of both worlds. A communist state, if that's your thing, and a capitalist state that attracts a lot of money, 7 of the 10 biggest technology IPOs of all time. But those days are running out. Or are they?
But I think you made a great point in the beginning about how the people are changing. The people of China want more. Hong Kong doesn't have a high-end luxury tax. So where do all the Chinese go to buy all their stuff? Hong Kong.
That's right.
You know, so they want to be like Hong Kong, actually. So this must be so weird for the Chinese people to be watching this, because they're probably cheering on Hong Kong right now, saying, do this, go for it. Maybe, just maybe, it'll flood over to us. Because many will argue China is probably in worse shape than Japan was at this point. I mean, they have government stimulation, right? They're, you know, overcapacity. Their housing market is falling precipitously. And they're not doing anything.
The facade is crumbling. Do you agree the facade is crumbling?
100% with Tracy and with Steve as well. And you have to remember, how many times have we said on Fox Business, do you trust the data coming out of China? You don't. No,
you know, we grew 18% in the latest quarter. Yeah, that's a ticket. Come on.
And talking about Alibaba, do you really think that it's, I mean, of course, Ma and Pa investor in Kansas are thinking, do I want to put my nest egg into shares of Alibaba?
Why did people, why did people do it then?
88% they didn't. This was a Wall Street manufactured IPO. That's a whole other story.
Okay.
But no.
But in that IPO, Cheryl, in that IPO, remember, was the understanding that China was calling the shots. Now, that we've gotten used to that and live with that, but what happens now?
Well, first of all, the economic figures might be flawed, but the pollution and commodity consumption figures are not flawed. They are consuming resources of an economy that is growing fast. We can't pretend that doesn't exist. These factories are humming in this country. And getting back to the point, can you have a...
I don't think anything approaching the numbers they say.
The growth figures are probably exaggerated, but that doesn't, you can't make up for the fact that they're consuming multiples of coal and steel.
Do you see that continue now in light of what's happening?
As far as investors, to get to that other point, is... Investors have written this off for years, and we're acting like this is some hot stock market. Other than Alibaba and a few tech stocks, this market is down 40–50% across the board from before the crash. No, it's one of the worst performing stock markets with the lowest P ratio of any major
and part
market.
Of it too
because we know it's screwy at the very best.
And they've not been kind to our multinationals. They actually box us out the door, right? They're shutting McDonald's doors.
Didn't Google say the hell with it? That's what promoted Alibaba in the first place.
Right. So I think many would argue they need us more than we need them.
I think practical reaction tells you you're right, that the practical thing to do, the self-survival thing to do is do whatever it is the Hong Kong folks want. Don't look like you're appeasing them, but certainly don't be firing on them. But I don't think China will do that. I think it will resort and revert to, I think, as you pointed out, the violent China.
Yeah, if we don't, who knows how this is going to play out, but if it gets violent, then we have to side with Hong Kong, because if we don't, and they come in and militarily just squash Hong Kong, they're going into Taiwan.
You think we're going to do something? You think we're going to stop them?
I don't actually know what the options are.
Can I add, there are Chinese police that are, as we speak right now, moving into Hong Kong. And let's not forget that Hong Kong was a part of the British Empire for years and years and years. But to your point earlier in the show, that swan song is happening, unfortunately, for people in Hong Kong.
What do you think happens then in the mainland China? They're watching this with keen interest in mainland China, right? So they're wanting to see, what are you going to do for these people? Or are you going to get violent with these people? China must know in the back of its mind, right? If we give in too much to the Hong Kong authorities, then we have a problem at home, right?
Well, this is the freest part of China. Like, that's the weird part. They're protesting where they actually have more rights than the rest of the bulk of Chinese people do. We're supposed
they want more. They want more.
We're supposed to. Well, that's the part. You give them a little. The
that's what I'm saying.
It's a 30-year promise.
We're supposed to protect them with Great Britain. I don't know if that's going to happen. I will say, a dictatorship with a communist dictatorship with capitalism can work if they're not also doing the ridiculous central planning decisions you've seen, where they're like building trains all over the place. That is where you're wasting resources and it will collapse in on itself. I think the British Empire was a kingdom that grew very fast for a long time without a democracy.
But do any of you hope that cooler heads prevail? I mean, a rational leader would know, or leaders would tell you, that the last thing we want is to imperil this economic juggernaut we've got going. Any violent action on our part, Tracy, would do just that. I'm talking about Chinese authorities. Yet their history suggests that they will ultimately, cut off their nose to spite their...
And I love the romantic notion that we would support Hong Kong and capitalism.
No way.
But no way.
Well, there are steps we could take. We could take aim at their economy, as you said. I mean,
well, their economy would suffer, and their market would tumble even more if they pulled any stunts.
Well,
right?
Are you saying you think that makes them even more repressive? I mean,
well, no, I think that is the only thing that can hold them back. The self-inflicted wound. But I've learned from the past that sometimes they inflict the wound themselves and don't care.
Well, the American people will say, look, I'm not going to buy Chinese. You know, if you're going to, I mean, we can take actions just as even as individuals to put the hurt to their economy.
Don't they have a trillion reasons to listen to us? I mean, we have borrowed that much money. We have to. I mean, we can just not pay it back, right? Like, look, you're going to
just stop buying their stuff.
But as they get smarter, I think the Chinese people themselves are going to rebel. I mean, remember the whole baby formula thing? It was all tainted.
Right.
They all went somewhere else. Like, the more China has disregard for FDA rules and regulations and things like that, the Chinese people
back to the power of social media in China. They can no longer stop that story from coming out, and that's why you're seeing, I think, all of these teenagers, these kids coming out. They know the power of being connected. They're connected with friends around the world, and they're saying enough is enough. They see, just like the Syrians did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that there was a free world out there, and they want to be a part of it.
I would agree with that, but there's a lot they can shut down.
As long as the Chinese economy was growing at whatever rate it was, 8, 9, 10, 11%.
Right.
The Chinese were willing to accept some political, pullback. But that changes if the economy stops growing and people don't feel that increase in their living standards. And that's where you could see a huge flare-up in China.
And there does come a point where you get those living standards, you have enough food and all of that, and all of a sudden you start craving more.
Yeah.
All right, we shall watch it closely. Meanwhile,